there be bees?
Grandpa,
whispered a sleepy voice, as Grandpa felt a soft tug in his sleeve.
Grandpa, tell me the story again.
Which story? Grandpa replied patiently. You know I am old as time. I have so many, and you sound so very tired.
The happiest story, the one that makes your eyes sharple,
replied the little voice, with a hint of gleeful excitement. You mean Sparkle? Grandpa chuckled. The happiest story, you ask? But you know it starts with Glum. With such heavy eyes, you'll be fast asleep before it gets fun.
It's funny when you speak in rhymes,
the boy giggled, his cheeks flushed red from warmth and joy. I think you mean rhymes, the older man smiled. All right then, shall I begin?
Yes, yes.
The boy jumped upright in his bed, then laid his back against his pillow and looked up at Grandpa expectantly. Grandpa met the boy's big gray eyes as he reminisced about the boy's father before he stared into the shadows dancing in the wall cast by the lit fireplace. And so, he began recalling memories long past, some happy, some sad, some bittersweet, as all stories go. Once there was a little boy, he began, and he lived in a concrete jungle. Poor little thing was oft woken up through the night by the train's rumble. The little boy would sprint out of bed and run to his dad, crying, Daddy, you must help. I think the monster is coming because I've been bad. And Dad would pull him into his own bed and hold him close while kissing his head full of dark brown hair.
Hair like me, the boy interrupted. But where was his mom?
The mum loved the little boy very much, but she had to go, you see. She needed flowers and pretty colors to breathe.
And there were none.
And there were none. And she could not find joy in the naked white walls inside or the gray worn-out walls outside. You see, when the little boy was little, the big evil man had sucked all the color out of the world. There was no blue in the sky, only thick smoke that hurt your chest. It was all concrete and asphalt, and...
Grandpa, when I was born, the boy began,
then squinted as his head fumbled for the right words.
When I was born, did my mum meet the little boy's mum?
Grandpa kept a straight face, even as he was taken aback. This was a new question. Perhaps the boy was growing too old for this story and could understand the bad. Life was so much more beautiful when all you could see was the good. Yes, Grandpa finally answered. When you were born, the little boy's mum was there to welcome your mum. She took her by the hand and led her to the colors.
But there are colors now, the boy replied. Do you think Mum whispered in Dad's ear? Do you think Mum taught Dad how to make colors?
You see, the little boy's dad knew how to make colors back then, but the big evil men would not allow it, not unless such colors were a dull green.
Money.
Money. They hurt our earth for money, you see. And the little boy's dad knew it all, and he did whisper in the little boy's ear all his knowledge and all his memories from when he was a little boy himself. Do you remember this part?
When before the little boy's dad was a dad, the boy began, he was much little like me. He played in the grass, and it was green and not black, and if you fell on it, there was no boo-boo.
Indeed, under the green grass there would be soft brown ground, and there would be creatures alive in the grass. There were creatures alive everywhere.
Because the earth needs them. That was what the little boy's dad would tell him. Even those that pinch you.
They sting you, Grandpa corrected, but only if you are mean to them. They are a furry black and yellow, and they have a tiny little sting in their bottom. They fly from flower to flower, sprinkling colors and flowers on the ground.
You need them for flowers, and you need flowers for creature food, the little boy continued. But wait, if they fly, do they rumble like a plane?
They will buzz you in your ear if they fly too close to you. That is why so many people are often afraid of them.
I would be afraid. They pinch you.
They sting you, Grandpa corrected him, ever so patiently. But the little boy took great interest in these little creatures. He went to school, as you will soon, and he began drawing those little furry flyers whenever he could. And his teacher was very, very young, barely even a woman, I would reckon. So she called in the little boy's dad, and she asked him what those strange creatures were.
And he gave her a book, a very old book.
Indeed, he did, and she did not believe it at first, because it was made of paper, and all new good books were but pixels on a screen. It was not a banned book, but it was also not a book approved by the big evil men.
But what she thought did not matter, reckoned the boy. Only the little boy mattered, yes?
Why, yes, Grandpa agreed. And the little boy made a decision. One of those nights, while he shivered in his dad's embrace, afraid of the rumbling monster.
He wanted to bring the colors back for his mom.
Yes, but the boy's father was poor, and they were nobody. They were just another cog in the big soulless machine that made the sickly world tick.
The little boy's dad worked in a factory. His hands were rose,
the boy continued, using his grandpa's words. His hands were coarse, yes, and he ruffled the boy's hair with his thick, big hands, worn by time and labor, which meant that the little boy would have to go to work after he finished his first school.
For the dull green paper.
But in their sad little home, their naked white walls were covered in more paper drawings of those black and yellow furry flyers, same as in the book.
The little boy had decided to save them.
Yes, he had. And the little boy's dad knew, and so he took more shifts in the factory and rationed his canned air, Grandpa explained, so that they could have more money, so the little boy did not have to go to work so soon.
So what did the little boy do?
Asked the boy, though he knew the answer. The little boy read his books with all his heart, even though he missed his dad. His dad was always at work, And when he was at home, he was so very tired and ill. Grandpa coughed softly, covering his face with his free hand. But the dad was very proud of his little boy. And the little boy would grow up, the boy continued with a smile, looking up at Grandpa. Yes, he would, as all little boys do, as you will. And he kept reading his special books. He was very special himself, and his teachers loved him so. And then the big fight, said the boy, with a somber stare. The big fight indeed. The boy was no longer little, but certainly not big enough. His dad had to go, while the boy stayed in school. You see, the big evil men lost in the end, but there were things the boy's dad had lost too. There was a lot of hurt. And many boo-boos, the boy acknowledged. Grandpa nodded softly and forced a reassuring smile, both for himself and the boy snuggling against him. With the big evil men out of the way, the common folk wanted a change, and they most certainly wanted their colors back. It was time for the gray and dull green to sit back and let the bright back in. The boy, almost a man, remained in school, head buried in his fancy science studies. He moved to the big men's school. Big good men, yes? Asked the boy. The little boy was growing to be a good man. But of course he was, Grandpa agreed, and he had met himself a very good woman. She also liked flying creatures. Hers had fevers, the boy nodded. A faint chirp from another room found its way in through the semi-closed door. Shh, Peaksy, sleepy time. Hers had feathers. She was studying hard, same as him. They wrote very important words, and together they slowly became big, important people. You see, they colored the world back to life. With crayons, was it? The boy asked. No, dear boy, with science, Grandpa said. Do you know much of science? Oh, no. I have read books, real paper books with pages which are now yellow. My eyes are no good for those fancy new screens, but I am no good at it. The little boy, now he was a real genius. I am sure his dad is very, very proud of him. As for myself, I am but a poor factory worker. The boy nodded in acknowledgement. The answer had satisfied him enough. His eyelids were heavy, and he found himself slinking into bed ever so slowly. They got married, the once little boy and the good woman. Their house had the good kind of green inside, and the man promised her the white walls would never be naked. But she still left, shrugged the boy. So why did it matter? Oh no, she had to leave. You see, they had a baby. Yes, a little boy, said the boy. He had one eye closed and another struggling to stay open as he squinted at his grandpa. They had a little boy, and after that, she was called to watch over him, together with the creatures she had begun to save, explained Grandpa. The birds. She is with the birds? Why, yes, she is. After the little boy's mum met her, she took her to the birds. So one is with the flowers, and the other is with the birds.
Is that why? The boy paused. Is that why the man wants to help the flowers and the birds?
You must know, my dear boy, as the man does, that once they watch over you, they cannot come back. It is a deal they have stricken. Grandpa's voice was low, soothing but sad.
Bad deal, the boy muttered.
Not so. The birds and the flowers carry their memories, you see. Even if there are still so few of them, there used to be many. The world was covered in them. And the world will be covered in them again, because there is no stopping that man. He finished school. He did, because he was so very smart, as you know. And he moved to a work, but it was not a factory work, no. It was a fancy but very important work. He did not wear a suit and tie or a dirty gray overall, but he did wear a white coat, and he helped those little furry flyers.
They buzzed.
The little boy trailed off. They buzzed indeed. Do you remember what they were called?
Uh-huh,
muttered the boy as he drifted off to sleep.
Bees, yes.
Those buzzing black and yellow furry flyers are called the bees. Grandpa pulled the covers up and tucked in the little boy. The bees spread the flowers and the colors, and the flowers feed the birds and the bees.
Colors.
And the little boy, who turned into a big good man, he studied very hard, and he helped the world heal, and he brought the colors back, and the sky will be blue again. Grandpa spoke softly as he got up slowly. Now sleep. Tomorrow we have a big day.
Why?
The little boy asked weakly, barely awake. Why? Because your dad said they were ready. We are going to meet the bees. The end.